So welcome again, everyone. Based on a couple of discussions on our threads that we have decided to do something different this time. The idea was we want to do topic-wise presentation. And so I chose because I didn't hear anything conclusive from other folks, even though some of the items were proposed, graph, some recursion or DP, things like that, string. But also the idea was that we want to do something like easier in the beginning because a lot of folks will try to learn from that. We didn't have a conclusive decision there, but then I thought, okay, I have to choose something to present. So I just thought, okay, let me start with interval problems. So we'll go through that today. And also because I have already put some links. There are many interval problems which is asked in interviews. So hopefully that will, this session will be useful. There is a higher chance that you might have seen most of the problems or many problems, or you might have solved, but even if you get 5% new ideas or something which you can use in future, or it gives you more confidence, then this will be worth it. So with that, I will start going through the basics. So interval based problems, what is common, any interval has two things, right? Interval has, one is start, one is end, right? So what do we know about, if we just talk about two intervals, for example, this interval and another interval, like S dash, E dash, for example. So there are two things, like they have, what is the way to differentiate that? There should be one uh, coordinate which tells you what is started before and after. So in this case, it is clearly time, right? There are a couple of dimensions in life. One is time, another is space. You can have things in a space. So these two are very generic thing. So in this particular case, we are dealing with time. So in that time axis, you can put different intervals and you can get different combinations, where you can place one versus the others. And based on that, we can frame different questions, and we will see how we will go through, you guys will hopefully lead me to different problems which were set already in lead code. So also I like to think about of interval as event, also an event which has a start and end. So that's why I will call it like E1 is interval 1, for example. So suppose there is this interval, and feel free to stop me anytime. I want it to be very informal. Suppose this is E1. Tell me, where can I put E2? This is the direction of time. This is our time. We will see where all we can put the second interval. So in first configuration, I can put E2 anywhere. So suppose I want to choose E2 maybe here. Let me make another configuration. We will put all the possible combinations. I can put E2 here, third, E1 here, and then maybe put E2. So it was outside that, it was here. Okay, put it totally inside E2. That was 3. And for all these 3, we can change E1 to E2 to get more combination. So what I'm saying that I can just say this is E2, this is E1. 5 is directly very similar to E2. To number 2, E2, E1, and 6 is very similar to 3, where E2 is bigger and E1 is here. Okay, this is most of it. So now you have this configuration, possible configurations which you can have these 6. If the question is now, can you check whether E1 overlaps with E2 or not? Can we do that looking at this drawing? So we will see in which way E1 can overlap with E2. Here it is not overlapping, right? First example, we see no. Here they are overlapping. Here they are overlapping. In this case, they are not overlapping. In this case, they are overlapping. In this case also they are overlapping. Okay. We also know that first 3 and next 3, this 3 and this 3, they are very symmetric. So if you can write one expression for E1, for the first 3 case, you can just change E1 to E2 in the second expression, and you can get the answer that that will work for the next case. So what I would say, just focus on one of this, maybe just focus on first 3 and give me some idea, when look on this side, basically not this side for now. So what we are looking for, is E1 overlapping with E2? This is the question I have. All the interval has or event has, I can say, event has 2 things. One is start, one is end. So you can call event like E1 dot start, E1 dot end, and then give me something that to this check actually. Anyone has any idea? Or can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
I think the simple way is to sort it, even if we have only 2 events.
Yeah, don't go into sorting yet. I have given you this already, kind of sorted. We are just talking about 2 intervals. And in the first 3 examples, if you see that E1 is already starting before E2, right?
Okay. So my is, by looking at that, I would see, just compare if S1 is greater than E. If S1 is greater than E, then it's not overlapping.
What is S1?
I'm looking at, okay. Sorry, I look at the start and end, it's outside boundary, but okay, look at E2. E2 start, if E2 start is greater than E1 end, then there's no overlapping.
E2 start is greater than E1 end. But I'm checking for the exact opposite of that. So I will write something like whatever you said opposite of that, something like this one dot end, right?
Yes.
If E2 start is less than equal to E1 dot end, that means that these guys will start to overlap, which is working. And I think it is right also. So yeah, you derived that. Now the thing is, like, you also were talking about sorting. Suppose the question was not giving you anything that whether E1 is starting before E2. So basically you have all these 6 possible combinations. Then you can add another check here before telling that, hey, this plus also I want to make sure that uh, E2 start, actually E2 start is greater than E1 start, right? Right? Because using this, I have fixed E1, I have fixed these 3 cases basically, that E2 always goes after E1. Sounds good?
Yeah.
So yes, we derived that. And exactly the same story will happen for this next 3 cases. We can just change E2 to E1 and that will be another case. So this is one case, another case will be or. You just copy that, like instead of E2 start, you can say E1 start, E1 dot, I'm just writing S because for like, it's easy for me. E2 dot end, E2 dot end, and E1 dot start is greater than equal to E2 dot start. So now no matter where E1 or E2 lies, these are the possible ways in which we can check whether these two events or intervals are overlapping or not. This check only is kind of fixing that, hey, like, let me make sure whether E1 starts before E2. Same thing I'm doing here. So if you just fix this, then this is good enough to, like, do the actual checking. So by this example, you also see, like, had it been fixed for some reasons, like, if somebody already tells me that I know that E1 starts from E2, then this will be just one liner, this much. If I know that E1 starts before E2, then, sorry, so actually not this one, which you derived, this line. Make sense? That is how you derived. I told you that assume that you only have this case, then how would you determine that whether they overlap? And you came up with this formula. So that tells you, if we have, if we don't have just 2 events, in most of the problems you will have, like, n events, and then you have to compare one with other. If somehow I know that whether one event starts before other, it will simplify my check, right? Because that gives you that I know that E1 started before E2. I don't have to worry about where E2 lies. I know it can only lie in these 3 conditions, either here or here, or maybe, what was the third condition? Yeah, it totally doesn't lie, or it totally lies inside it. So that was E1, and these 3 were E3, E2s. That simplified your cases. That is the reason you will sort your intervals. When things are ordered, it's easier to make decision everywhere, like in life also. Like, so we derived, so we are done with this question. Like we can do this question, right? Only for two intervals. We are not talking about n intervals, but if you are given two intervals, now you know how to check that, whether E1 is overlapping with E2, right? And to tell you, like, let me clear this up, because this board is not very, like, in a good. So after we thought about, like, sorting and everything, that E1 is before E2, finally we derived a one liner. So let me write that. And that was that E2 start if it is less than equal to E1 dot end. That's it. Then we can say that they are overlapping. Okay, it's easy to do now. Like if things are sorted, you always will have two intervals to check, and then you can continue doing this, and we will see. We can do that. Now the question is, if I ask you, so now let me also erase this side. We'll have a different drawing, because we chose why we want to sort things, because it simplifies stuff. And sometimes when you are doing your operation on n intervals and you are doing O of n square, it'll go anyway, then why not just sort it, spend your O and log n cost, and then do it easily, unless you have been given a sorted interval already. In that case, you would not need it. So now my question is, if I am giving you two intervals with the same story, that E1 will start before E2. My question is now, can you tell me which, I want to create another interval or event, for example, and you have to fill me the value for, like, which part is, let's call it, what do you call it, overlapped. So in this case, this part is overlapped. I want to return this thing, this value. So you can call it, maybe let's call it intersection. Question is intersection of two intervals. You have E1 start, E1 end, E2 start, E2 end. So let's see who can tell me what should be this value. This will be the start of your new, this area. And this will be the end of this area. So I need these two values.
The first value could be the maximum E1 start and E2 start. And this, yeah, E1 start and E2 start.
This is the first value, okay.
Yeah, the second value could be the minimum E1 end and E2 end.
Okay, minimum of E1 dot end and E2 dot end. So it looks good to me. Thanks for suggesting that. Anyone has any questions on that, or it looks too challenging to figure that out? We can even draw something. You should always draw this thing, like draw this case This was the best case, so that's fine. Another way you should draw this one and this one. This is E1, E2, E1, E2. What's he saying that for selecting this point, I want to check the maximum of first interval start time and end time. What's the, sorry, there is a question or something. Let me take a look. E2, okay, yeah, fine. Okay, let's continue. So in this particular case, what will happen? In this particular case, we are seeing E1 start or E2 start. So when you will run this thing, you should make sure first of all whether they are overlapping or not. We already know overlap check. So we will first run our overlap check. Like, is it overlapping? Once we are overlapping, now we know we have either this case or we have either this case. These two cases are handled by her logic. Check the start point, both the start point, take the max, check the end point, take the min, and that will give you this thing. So we now know how to find intersection of two intervals. We'll check whether they are overlapping, and if they are overlapping, then just using this formula, we can tell what is the area of intersection. And we
The
can,
one question.
yeah.
Let's say suppose we don't check the whether it's overlap first.
Okay.
Right? We just go ahead and do the max.
Okay.
And then after that, we will check if the start is less than the end, then that's an overlap. And if the start is greater than end, then we know there's no overlap.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. So what you are saying in this particular case, for example, you will get something like this. So the algorithm will give you this area as intersection, right? Or maybe no, the start of this. So max of, okay, sorry, max of start, actually this one, and min of end. Oh, okay. So min of this, actually this will give you this area, right? So your start is ahead than your end, right? This is the start and this is end, which doesn't look right. So yeah, you can, based on that check, you can also decide that they are not overlapping. I think that should work. Anyone has any questions before we move to the next question? Okay, so looks, I think everybody understands it now. So let's let me not erase everything. Let me erase part of it. So what do you think? We just decided, or we just deduced whether two interval overlaps or not. We found intersection of two interval. What should come next? Guys, you know the answer already. Just speak up. No? Okay. What is? So E1, E2. What's the intersection? We already know. The other thing I could be interested in is union, or let's call it merge. So what I'm saying, this entire thing, You can call it a merge interval, or union of two intervals. So now you will again derive the same thing. You are given two intervals, E1 and E2, as, and again I will write it here. Here is E2. You know this is your area. So this is the overall interval. Now again I want these two things. What should be the start? What should be the end? So I'm focusing on start. And this time, can someone else try to come up with the formula?
We can use the mean of start for the first one.
Mean of, you are saying E1 dot start?
Yeah, and E2 dot start.
And E2 dot start. Okay.
And for the second one, we use the max of E1 and E2 and.
E1 dot and E2 dot end. Okay, min of this, max of this, that looks good to me. So yeah, that should work in my opinion. Similarly, like as we derived the previous case, this should work. Anyone has any doubts on this? No doubts? No doubts so far. So then I can claim now, if there are no doubts, that we know three things. I know how to check overlap. I know how to do union, or how to derive, given two intervals, how to find merge interval. Third thing, I also now know and have a formula to find intersection of two intervals. And please note that you guys have derived it with me. It didn't need you any, don't think about, let's sort it and then look at a start or end. Just derive once. Once you derive and you will be able to figure out the formula for yourself. Just draw a couple of pictures and it should be very easy to come up with. So with that, I think we are going to solve many problems just based on this knowledge. In this particular class or session, let's say, I'm not going to solve everything, but we'll go through that how these basics will help you to solve common problems, which I posted on the Slack earlier. So let's go to, let me stop sharing here. And let's go to our, was discussed somewhere, maybe on LeetCode practice. Actually, it should be on my thread also. So let me go, that's faster. Okay. You guys can see the screen, right? Please confirm. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So now the question is, and see, this is asked very frequently. Medium, you are given merge collection of intervals, and they are asking you to merge the intervals, right? So 1, 3 and 2, 6, they are overlapping. So they get merged to 1, 6 here. 8, 10 and 15, 18, they are not overlapping with anyone. So you will just leave them as it is. So this will be your output. Okay. And also in this particular case, please note that it's never told that it is already sorted or anything. So based on what we have just learned, can someone propose me like what we will do first? The very first step should be what?
Sorting.
Sorting, that's a good idea. Sorting, because that will put the things in order and it will help us to make decisions. And we are going to always make decisions between just two intervals. And based on our discussions just now, we know that how to do that just for two intervals, right? So yeah, first step sorting, then you will check whether an interval is overlapping with the next interval or not. Suppose it is overlapping. Suppose yeah, it's overlapping. And what will you do? So now I can erase this thing because it's very clear and we are not going to do too much. We'll not use this one a lot. So intervals are scattered somehow. It could be like this, it could be like this, and then after sorting, I'm telling you, this could be like this, something like this. So in the beginning, you got these two guys. You know that they are, you have a way to figure out whether they are overlapping. You have a formula to figure out what the merged interval will be. So now you have this guy, right? This is your output after you have handled this and this guy. So at this point of time, you have a merge interval, but it's possible that that guy is also overlapping with your next guy. So you should continue merging it, right? So you will have this one after, this, finally this merge interval merged all these three guys. Then there will be a time possibly that it doesn't merge with the next guy. Then you will say, hey, I have an output, my current output, which merged all the previous intervals which I have so far. Let me put it in my output and then start with the next one. You will again check this one, and then you will again figure out another merge interval. What you need to do, you didn't require any other knowledge than which we just learned. That is very important. At this point of time, this should become an implementation problem. If you are still feeling go try to do this problem after this class or session. If you have never done it, then try to do this. If it is failing, then you will figure out why it failed. Then you will realize maybe I didn't merge it correctly, but you have all the knowledge to make this work. So please go through the process. Don't go to the solution. Otherwise, you will not learn that much.
पॉलिनेशियन कल्चर में कुछ लोगों का मानना है कि वेल्स जैसे बड़े मरीन क्रीचर्स उनके एंसेस्टर्स इस तरह हैं और बहुतों के लिए ऐसी औरत एक बहुत ही पवित्र जगह है इस बात को सेलिब्रेट करने के लिए हम सब वजह नहीं कि ये सेलिब्रेट की जाए जिसमें मेहमान और वे सवाल जरूर शामिल
Like it's postponed.
Yeah, let me mute. Is it better now?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys agree that we can do the merge interval problem on LeetCode, right? We'll move because we have a lot of questions. I want to at least touch base so that you can do it in your time. So let me go to the.
So one thing I want I observe is,
Yeah.
once we sort, we deal with 2 interval at a time, right? We just deal with 2 at a time, and sorting is n log n. And then last time we talked about heap. Heap will be big O of n. So in this case, we can also use heap to do this one. So it reduces the runtime complexity to big O of n.
Yeah, so whether heap is O of n or O of n log n, I would say like you have to check case by case. When you know some of the things like, and you're building stuff based on that, some of the languages, not all, has that kind of implementation. But I would suggest for all practical purposes, it's good to know that it could be done in O of n, but just mention that it should be O of n log n. I haven't tested it so I wouldn't claim anything about it. But yeah, as we discussed last time, it's good to bring it up. In Java, it's still n log n. So I use Java, and I would use normal sorting in this particular case because it's simpler. But yeah, good point. Actually, we will talk about heap maybe if we have time today. So let's go to the next question, right? We are going to only talk about what we just discussed. So that will, I hope that it will solidify what we just learned and makes you more confident. This is another question on lead code, which is insert interval. Merge if necessary. So you are given 2 interval and there is a new interval 2, 5, and then you have to merge. You will have n intervals, for example, and one just new interval, and you have to output the merge interval. Okay. All right. So has anything changed in this particular question? Like, do I need any extra knowledge to do this? I will just draw, and I think you guys will realize probably not. Clear all drawing. So you have like many such intervals, and one interval like this is new interval. This is new, and this 3 was already given set of intervals. We need to merge this into this. So what is the idea? One thing could be that they gave you the interval in the sorted format. Another thing is maybe they didn't give you the interval in the sorted format, like based on start time. If they didn't give you that, then suppose I have n intervals. I have this one new interval, So that was a new interval. So we have one more interval. I could just add this interval in my interval list somewhere. And then if I know the problem of the previous, solution, because we just derived the solution for merge interval, then I can just call merge on the previous question solution on these set of intervals. And that should work because we change this problem to the previous problem and everything is similar other than that. Any question on that before we go to maybe the next idea for the same? Probably not, because it's very clear that there are so many intervals, the new interval can come anywhere, and we know a way to merge all those, and that is what the question is asking. So yeah, we'll just call previous code and it should work. But if they already are giving you that, consider that this are sorted, then how will you insert a new interval? Okay, theoretically, what will you do? This is your interval which may need to be merged with something before him, which may need to be merged with something after him, right? And we will go, because it's already ordered, we'll check, hey, maybe suppose there was one more interval here. This guy doesn't, like, we have this check to figure out whether they are overlapping or not. So if these two guys are not overlapping, then I don't need to merge it, right? I will continue processing it, like, I will put it in my output list. I will check the next. As soon as my check will say, hey, these guys are actually need to be merged, then I also need, okay, what is then my formula for the merge interval, which we derived already in the previous couple of minutes before that. So we'll say, okay, this merged, this is the current, merge interval. Let's see if it is still merging with the next guys. So these two have already merged at this point of time. Okay, next process, this guy. Does this guy now merge with this new interval? Actually, it looks like it merges. Okay, what we can do? Okay, make it bigger. So this is my new merge interval. Okay, then whether this guy merges with this, no, they don't overlap, so no need to merge. Okay, then put this in your output list. We put this in the output list earlier. So that was one value, this is new value. And then this is the last guy. Put that also here somewhere. And then we are done. So the question is, is it clear first of all, this approach? Should be easy. I think we already know everything, how to solve it about this problem is nothing new. So based on the same ideas and knowledge, you can easily solve this problem. So I will move to the next problem because I just want to show you, based on these ideas, how you can solve all these problems and give it a try. Okay, interval list intersection. Okay, so they have given you a list of interval A and B, and then you have to calculate the intersection. So here A is here, B is here, and then this small area is the intersection area. So as you remember, we know how to find intersection of two intervals, right? Here A can have, say, X number of intervals, B can have Y number of intervals, and then you have to output the overall intersection of these intervals. What you will do is, one at a time, you can check first interval of A, first interval of B. You have the formula to figure out whether they overlap or not. If they overlap, you also know what is the interval which you will add in your output list. Okay, based on that, now what will you do? You have this output. Then one of these interval, either in A and B, they need to be dropped off because one must end before the other. So we'll just drop the one which just ended, and then we will find whether the next one starts to overlap with the current one or not. And in this particular case, if they are touching, they don't say that it is overlapping, I guess. No, actually they are saying it is overlapping. That's why this value is 5, 5. So yeah, be very clear what the problem is saying. Even if they are touching, they consider it as a, intersection. So continue doing that for all these values. Again, in this problem, if you know the basics, you should be able to do it. And if you're doing it for the first time, I would say don't take too many elements in your case. Just take two elements here, take two or one element here, and then see if you are getting the right result. And then just, if that works, then you can just try to put everything, and that should work. And then there is another problem, Teemo attacking. I think this is some story in poisoned condition. This story I don't like. But anyway, let's 142. Okay. At point one time, Teemo starts attacking us and makes us be poisoned immediately. I will explain the problem in a bit. Okay. Okay, probably I know what it is saying. So suppose there is a guy and he figures out, if I work for the current company, after a couple of years, 1 or 2 years, work continues to get complex, but reward is not that good. So I should rather do lead code questions. Maybe every year or two, I will just switch. So I will get a big hike, and probably I will not be working that hard. That was his motivation, by the way. So what he says, okay, so the question was 1, 2, 4, something like that. What is this? There is a chat. Yeah, we share the video link after the session. It will be shared on the channel, so don't worry. You can, yeah, if you have to leave, just leave. Thank you. So yeah, 1, 2, 4. So idea is, we know that every 2 years, if I stay in this company, my work will get I will have to work very hard because expectation is huge, but reward is not that good. So based on the current situation in the job market, somebody has decided, okay, I will just do lead code. It's fun, plus it gives me more money, and nobody care. So why not just do that and keep jumping? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So for example, from here to here, I don't have to work hard. I don't have to work hard. But if I stay in this place, in this current company, then I have to work hard. So the question is, I that guy, whoever is his name, he wants to jump companies, and he wants to, it's already told when he is jumping basically from one company to the other. So first example is 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Second example is 1, 2, 2. So let me write it. 1, 2, 2. 2 year is when he feels like it's too much. So he jumps from in the first year itself. Okay. And he jumps again second year itself. So the question is, how many years he is sitting idle, for example. Not idle means not spending too much time. So if you look at this problem, this can be converted into an interval problem, because if he just jumped from in the beginning, he knows the next 2 year I can stay without doing too much work. But then again he jumped here, so maybe his situation was not that good there, he jumped again. So now he can move up to one more year. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So he can continue staying there. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 I started, but actually this is 3 years, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. If he stays in this company without jumping, he has to work here for sure, harder. So looking at the we just acquired the current knowledge. You have again two intervals. First, what was the first step he started with? What is the deadline till he know that he will not have to work, right? And then he decides when to jump. So if he keeps jumping every 1 year, then we know that okay, just continue adding this, he's not working. But there will be somewhere where you cannot merge anymore. Wherever you can't merge anymore, that is the place where he is actually working. So same question, go read it. But I didn't like the story, so I changed it. So what we have learned based on just this basic theory, we can solve many problems. There are actually more, and they are not free, so I can't talk about it here. So now we will go to the other section of this. Or maybe actually I have another approach to solve these, like I have solved earlier. Let me also give a brief idea. So any interval problems, as we talk, it has a start and end, right? So for example, 1 3 2 6 8 10 15 18. It will look like this: 1 3 2 6 8 10 15 18. Okay, this idea is, you can call it event processor, because there are event, you want to process these event. There is two things. One is event starts and event ends, right? So for this example, if I just start drawing this, like whenever event starts, I will say event opened, and when it closes, I will put event closed. And let's look how it will look. So on the timeline, this is a start, right? So suppose if I say started, then this guy also starts. So okay, let's put started. This guy ends. Okay, let's put end. This guy ends. Let's put end. This guy started. Let's put started. This guy ended. Let's put ended. Same here. Same here. All right. Some of you might have seen these kind of question, like in different question, where you will have these kind of brackets, and they will tell you whether this is balanced or not. That kind of way. We know this is balanced. You know this is balanced. This is balanced. If you think this way, can I say that, hey, actually these two intervals merged into a bigger interval? This is like by itself, it's merged. This is merged. Does does that make sense visually?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So, and then I am pretty sure you might have already figured out how we can solve it. Like if I assign a weight 1 to open interval, assign a weight, so 1 plus 1 will become 2. Assign minus 1 for this, for example, assign 1 for this, then this will become 1, this will become 0. So anytime I get a 0, I know I have a current merge interval. And while I'm processing, I already know when I started, when I ended. I can create a merge interval based on just that, and then I can keep doing this. So this is another way to look at some of these problems, because sometimes this becomes much easier, but also sometimes you have to be very creative to turn a problem in this particular processor way of thinking, because then you may need more information. Then you can create as, for example, info or some kind of object where you will put all these attributes as your um, information which you may need in future. But yes, this is another way to look at it. It's possible to also do insert interval, similar way the problem we did. We can also do intersection using this, because whenever you will reach a value of, for example, 2, then we know that maybe my intersection period started, something like this. So give it a try. I was just throwing this idea because I had solved it long time back, and I thought I will just talk about it. So yeah, I can move to the next important thing, which is also used a lot in other problems. Before then, do you have any question on this particular approach? Feel free to ask now.
So in this case, we need to identify the start and the end, and then sort the whole thing, and then process one by one, right?
Right. So in this case, what you are doing, you are converting all these points into one, let's say, you don't need, at least in this particular case. So you have all these start and end point, start, end, start, end, start, things like that. So all the start is basically you are putting +1, e gives -1. Doesn't matter where they are coming from, at least for this particular simple problem. But in some of the problems, you may need that info. So it will not be just start or end. It may be some another object which you can place while you are going through that. So why I call it event processor, because now you have turned one interval into 2 events. Each interval is 2 event. One is the starting event, and another is the ending event of that interval. So your array will be like this if you just call it event array. You can define type of the event as start or end, and then you start processing one by one. So here I can say, okay, I saw a start, I will say 1 0 1. Here it's 0. So immediately I know, okay, this is one pair which is useful for me. Then I will put 1 2 1 2. So I know, these guys are still going on. So eventually I will figure out where they are merging. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the idea. That's the general idea. So based on that, now we can go to another important thing I wanted to discuss. So far we have been sorting interval by start time and doing not much with end time, if you have seen, right? But sometimes, and we have done it in our previous sessions also, that end time also becomes useful. As someone was also discussing, we'll put things in priority queue, right? So like a lot of interval problems, you will see this greedy approach helps. And that's the general idea. When your end time will start to give you some crucial information to take a decision, then you may start putting it in your priority queue. So you have already sorted by a start time, sorted by a start maybe, and then you are going through one by one. But among those, I am sorting here maybe by end time. It depends on when I will need to sort by end time as max or min. That depends on the problem, but this is the general idea. So from this priority queue, you will take, okay, which interval is this, which is ending maybe soonest. Let me go through that and then continue processing what I was doing, like, our general way of solving the problem. So there are a lot of problems where you will have to apply this. So I give you this kind of idea or pattern, or think like that, okay, by start time, it makes me easier to make the big decision in the beginning. But even after a start time, there comes a time when I have no idea, uh, like how we will be affected by the end time. And for that, like, there is a very famous problem, like, which you guys might have heard, the meeting room problem, for example. So there are meetings going on, for example, here, like, this is again start time, end time. Okay. And then, yeah, let's make it simple. If you have to schedule meeting or you have to attend the meeting, the first problem is, for example, can you attend these meetings? First of all the three meetings. So what do you think? Can you attend all these three meetings? No, right? The reason is, if I attend meeting E1, then I cannot attend meeting E2. So I can either attend E1, E2 or E1, E3, but I can't attend all the three. How I can tell, okay, when can I attend or not? If they are, if my merge check, like, whether they overlap, if that says yes, they are overlapping, then I can make that decision right away that I cannot attend all the meetings because there is an overlapping. We know how to check the overlapping thing. So that solves the first problem. Can you attend all the meetings? No, in this particular case not, but we know how to do that. Now suppose the problem was these meetings need to be held in different rooms and we want to minimize the number of rooms. Then what will you do in that particular case? I know that it's it's overlapping, but how would you figure out that how many rooms we need?
So as soon as we found an overlap, so we have to increment the count for the room.
Okay. So if there is an overlap, I will add one new room, right?
Yes.
That is okay. But suppose now I started another meeting here and this is ending here. So this particular arrangement will tell me that I need one for this guy to start with. Then there was an overlapping, so I will need two rooms. And then this guy is new guy which I added. This is also overlapping. So now I can say I need three. And this guy was independent, so maybe I will say, okay, three is good enough. But is that right?
No.
It's not right, right?
Now, visually, we can see that we just need only 2 rooms.
Yeah, because this guy here, the meeting in that room which we started has already ended. So we are not reusing this particular room. So that's what we were talking about. So far, we were not worried about end time of our previous intervals. But in different problems, you may have to take a decision. Hey, I know that we started some event in past, but that ended. So depending on your use case, you have to do something about it, right? So here you will do something about it. Whichever room has become empty, you have to start reusing it. So that is why now you need to keep track of events end time. And that is what I was trying to explain here, that you may have to start tracking these end time, and depending on when it started or ended, you can make some decision. Does that make sense? Like why we need it first of all. When why is clear, then we can talk about how.
Yes.
That's good. So yeah, then end time. I am now interested in which room will become empty earliest. So we all can think about the data structure which will give me that, right? So that's it. I mean, you can put it in a priority queue, and you can continue removing stuff. Whenever a new meeting comes, I will check, hey, is there anything in the priority queue which I can reuse? Because those meetings already ended. And that's how it will work. So you remove, so this is your priority queue. You added end time for the first interval, then second, then third. As soon as you start processing new, you start pulling out stuff which are already expired. So now you will be able to figure out I can reuse the previous room or not. And at any point of time, whatever is the size of this queue will tell how many meeting room you need. Is that clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So that's it actually. Now I have already given some problems. Go and take a look and discuss in the thread. Actually, I got a call which I have to attend, unfortunately. I was trying to go through those two. So I will just stop sharing